بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد سيد البشر وآله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين ومن والاه ومن لم يوالي هذا الرسول فإما أن يترك أو يصمت. There's a lot of websites out there. You're not gonna like if you do not have the faith in Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it's up to you. You can leave this website. This is only used for information purposes, also explaining the book, the Quran versus people. After we've seen previously how John Wansbrough, there's no such thing as an ID from the West that is genuine. So he's an Orientalist. So he definitely came across Taha Hussein and Mustafa Sadiq al-Rafi'i, and he heard what Taha Hussein said, the Mujaddid, the one who wants to renew the faith. He wants to modernize Islam. So he's definitely heard about those two arguing about the Quran, where Taha Hussein said that al-Sha'r al-Jahili manhul, which means the poetry before Islam is basically, it's made up way after that period, and it is stuck to that period. So this is dangerous, because this will give you the leeway in thinking that the Quran was made 300 years before what we say in the 6th century. So it was made basically or maybe it will give the idea that the Quran might have been written 300 years before Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that will open more problems in people rethinking. They call them revisionists. So they want to revise history. They say, well, maybe there was no Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was no character as Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or something like that. Open the door to someone called Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer, thank God for the Anti-Defamation League, that the Jews themselves in America found out that Robert Spencer was actually too much. He was taking it up a notch, and he was using focusing on the Palestinians and the Muslims by saying they hate Jews, please hate them because they hate Jews. And the Jews found out, nah, this is not why we basically attack certain people. We attack them because of terrorism, not because they're Muslim, simply the Muslims. Robert Spencer, however, finds anything from the Muslim as a jihad, and he is waging this. He had this Jihad Watch website in 2003. I do remember when it first came up, and for him, he's waging that there's a conspiracy the Muslims are going to take over the world. Muslims going to take over the world. Okay, good luck with that. Muslims can't even put a party together, yet you want them to take over the world? Okay, look at China. China's taking over the world. So anyway, he waged even more on any culture. Anybody says Happy Eid or let's have Hijab Day, they're taking over. Dude, we say Happy Eid. Regardless of this, we say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, the Jews would say. We say Gong Si Fo Choi, Happy New Year in Chinese. We say all of these. People say Happy Diwali even. You go to Malaysia, they say Happy Raya, Happy Diwali. But when it comes to Islam, this fella attacks really bad. Robert Spencer definitely takes the John Wansbrough ID, and he even publishes a book called Did Muhammad Ever Exist? Yeah, he did exist. Okay, dude, so you're basically not inventing the wheel. You're just a sitcom. We're laughing at people like those. Anyway, they call them revisionists. Hijab Day, he attacked any focus on Palestinians bombing, whatever. There you go. He wants the anti-Semitic. He wants the Quran to be taken. This is challenging the Quran. He wants to take the Quran, put it in public, and say this is basically the manifesto of terrorism. This is the anti-Semitism. Let's put an end to the Quran. He wants us to stop publishing or printing the Quran and sending it overseas for free. Well, go to Saudi Arabia and tell them to stop the King Fahd bin Abdulaziz publishing printing press Tiba'at al-Quran to stop basically printing the Quran. Yeah, good luck with that. Robert Spencer basically also on the commentary of the Quran, he says that he made a commentary on the Quran. He also goes, if you look at the commentaries of the Quran, there's nothing much. An 8-year-old can actually write commentaries on the Quran. It's not commentaries on Quran with some depth. An example, I've written an example here, page 56. Unfortunately, the text that Spencer focuses on is not really material to be revisited. So he's not a scholar. He's nobody. But then one would say, actually, in the Jihad Watch, he says there's an example that he said, I've actually downloaded it and just read a couple of verses of it to see his commentaries. I've lost 5 minutes of my life. So he says Al-Fil, Surah Al-Fil, chapter 105. So he says, well, if you do not listen to God, God will send you the wrath, whatever. There's no depth. Dude, people would actually take Al-Fil and make stories out of it. For example, Muslims themselves are even scared to recite Al-Fil in front of non-Muslims and tell them what happened. The event was basically angels coming over Mecca, rescuing Al-Kaaba from Abrahat al-Ashram, and they basically, angels made out of birds, they took the pebbles from Jahannam, the hellfire, and pebbled and basically threw them at the Abrahat al-Ashram's army, decimating all of them. Muslims even do not explain that to us because they were afraid, munafiqeen, they're afraid that people will say, oh, you believe in fairy tales. Habibi, the event happened. Aam al-Fil is very well known, and we celebrate Rasulullah sallallahu his birthday. Forget those bloody Salaf who say, don't celebrate the birthday of Rasulullah. Those people, wallahi, sometimes I think people yu'adun Rasulullah. As Salaf the extreme, and Ghulat al-Hanabila, and the Jihad Watch and Spencer and all of those anti-Muslim and anti-Quran League, and those Salaf are exactly the same. I'll give you a quote. He comes into Queensland, Australia, and they praise him. Oh, he's the Nabi al-Jadid, wal-'iyadhu billah. He is the Nabi, he's Musaylama, he's the second Musaylama maybe, who knows. So he goes to Queensland and he says, oh, this is Robert Smith. Oh, he made the commentaries and everybody's praising him. The Australians, oh, they're happy. Happy, Mr. Spencer's got some fans of it. You've got a fan base, dude. Yeah, mate. He's got a fan base in Australia. Okay. Sirdima, they're a splinter. They're not that many. Many Australians would actually look at him and say, who's that guy? Who's that guy, mate? So he goes in and he says one sarcastic remark, and he says to the Australians in Queensland, have you ever realized that when you quote the Quran, you're misquoting the Quran? Yes. And they all laughed. They said, yeah, how come we're misquoting the Quran? Yes, you can't take وَاقْتُلُوهُمْ حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمْ وَأَثْقِفُوهُمْ وَاقْتُلُوهُم حَيْثُ ثَقِفْتُمْ وَأَخْرِجُوهُم مِنْ حَيْثُ أَخْرَجُوكُم. You can't take this ayah and say, I'm going to go to London and sack the place. The Quran said so. No, that there is something called nasikh wa mansukh, abrogated and non-abrogated. There is something called, is this ayah, was it revealed for a certain event? Was it am or khas? Is it actually for public, for everybody, or is it just for specific people? Like, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ. We know that we Muslims are obliged to fast. You can't go to a kafir mulhid, hey, why aren't you fasting? No, he's not a Muslim. So there you go. He gave a speech. He's a man. Apparently, what I've realized from all of these websites and Daesh and Robert Spencer are exactly the same. Daesh will say, yes, we will have to kill every single kafir. And Robert Spencer will say, yeah, see, they want to kill every single kafir. And the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah will say, no, that's not true. You could not take, as it's a rule, thou shalt not take a verse out of its place. You will have to understand that. So Jihad Watch is still going on because of the freedom of speech. Subhanallah, if you say anything to insult the Quran, is freedom of speech. But if you want to defend the Quran, now you're a terrorist. And Muslims, every Muslim I ask, well, why don't you just tell them about the Quran? They go, brother, they will look at me as a terrorist. We cannot defend the Quran. So Muslims have a gagging order on them. Muslims cannot defend the Quran, unfortunately. Stop Islamization of America came in as known as the SIOA, was founded in 2009 after that. You see, there's a lot of organizations, there's a lot of money that goes in to stop the Quran, stop it. These are all factors challenging the Quran. This is the war that we're talking about. It's an ideological war that we have. And we Muslims, we can't do anything about this. Spencer wrote, as I said, did Muhammad ever exist? And imagine, that went through. He continues what John Wansbrough has said. So it's only an idea. There's no scholarship in this at all. None of them went to a proper school to learn Islam or learn anything about Islam, not even remotely about Islam. Nothing at all. That book actually is a bestseller. Imagine that. There's also another book about did Jesus ever exist? Yes, he existed. Of course he did. The Quran al-Kareem does confirm the event of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. So a popular book of Robert Spencer, he had a lot of quotes and misquotes left, right, and center. Why is the public taking this? It's because of a daring character of Robert Spencer. Robert Spencer now is a hero. Why? Because he dared the Muslim. Doesn't matter whether it's right or wrong. Like the mad priest who wanted to actually go and have, he's not even a priest. He wanted to go and have a Quran burn day. It would never happen. None of the churches would do this. We shouldn't condemn a whole nation. You see, this is how a Muslim thinks. We cannot condemn nations because of one idiot, whereas the world is condemning the whole Muslim population because of one idiot. Wallahu al-musta'an. Wallahu al-musta'an. So it is basically a tug of war thing. Do this. Some people will push you to do the stupidest and silliest things ever, and they will just stand at the back to see what happened. Has nothing to do with faith. It has nothing to do with anything. Robert Spencer still goes, thank God the Anti-Defamation League found him that this is basically, he's defamating the Islam as a whole. He's basically attacking Islam as a whole. He's not attacking a certain people. When the government says, when Donald Trump says, we don't care about what you do back home, you have the right to practice your religion. Dude, why do you think we're in Australia? Wahhabis have even more opportunities in actually exploring their Wahhabism here in Australia than Saudi Arabia now. So, freedom of speech, the freedom that we're given here, we're thankful for that. For as long as democracy doesn't die. But democracy is dying, by the way. Democracy is dying because we have also a minister, whatever, member of parliament saying final solution. You can't say final solution in a parliament. To pronounce final solution in a parliament, in a democracy, is the end of democracy. Because all Muslims, Jews also know this. They say, dude, you're counting days. Why? To have someone say final solution in parliament is dangerous. It's absolutely dangerous. We come to also Daniel Pipes. Daniel Pipes basically is an advocate of freedom of speech. He does have danielpipes.org. I frankly visited most of the time to see the people who are airing out. It's all full of hot air. Mostly what really caught my eye was they are trying to stop girls getting married to Muslims. I say, we do not want to get married to your girls. Keep them as they are. And they're blaming us that Islam is growing. Well, get your children to go to churches or whatever. We don't want them to enter Islam. It's up to you. You hold them back. It's not. We're not here dying day and night to get people into Islam. We're hardly making $1. In his forum, there is he's a very strong advocate of freedom of speech and democracy, and for him he advocates that when the cartoons that offended Muslims came out, he tried to prove that 40 that was in the 80s, I think. I've seen an interview of him, and he said the Israel has been a success for the past 40 years because Israel is a democracy. So he's comparing Israel with Jordan and Egypt and Syria and Iraq and even Saudi Arabia. So he says, well, there's democracy in Israel, and there's no democracy in the Arab world. But we do have fine lines. That's the thing. He also said, he defended the idea that the cartoons should have gone as something as normal. Certain things in Islam cannot go as normal. We can't be even in a majlis, in a sitting where people basically insult Rasulullah. So it's out of spite. Imagine that. We can't. Due to faith, we can't do that. The other thing is, there's an article called, on his website, I'm not sure if he's the administrator or not, but it's on his website, and it is called The Study of Islam Post-1969. So he brings back John Wansbrough. He told you John Wansbrough is the Nabi. He's the Nabi of those people. He's the prophet. They've been waiting for this guy. And it is called The Study of Islam Post-1969 and John Wansbrough. So submitted by a Dhimmi no more. So he doesn't want to be min Ahli Dhimma. Ahli Dhimma is not degradation at all. Ahli Dhimma, which means you're part of my family. That's Ahli Dhimma. If you understand what Dhimmi is, you wouldn't say that. But those people, they do not understand. Why? Because the mechanism of this whole world, the media mechanism, is focused on painting or portraying Islam in a bad shape and form. So he says basically also, At-Tabari, the article supports John Wansbrough's book to start with, and the writer continues and brings the attention of At-Tabari, quoting 105, Surah Al-Fil, again, Surah Al-Fil. The Al-Fil was called Alam Tara, according to At-Tabari. So basically, he says, maybe this is not the ayah, the surah. So Alam Tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. He says maybe it is called Alam Tara, but maybe Al-Fil they're talking about is not this fil, and there's some misquotation, so the name is different. So maybe the writing is different. Dude, did you even read Arabic? No, he doesn't want to read Arabic. He's just telling you about names. If you go to As-Suyuti, radiyallahu anhu warda, and you download the book for PDF, it's for free. If you don't want to buy, I bought it, but cost me about $50 to get it over here. It cost me about 80 bucks. He has 50. I can't remember, about 30 names or 50 names of the Quran alone. And then he has also another chapter of the names of the surah, the names of the chapter. A chapter can actually have Surah Al-Insan, Surah Al-Qadr, Surah Muhammad is also Surah Al-Qital. Any surah, you take any of those chapters, they do have a couple of names. Alam Tara, Al-Tabari basically quoted it as Alam Tara. And I haven't seen it actually, I've just seen it once. I've downloaded Al-Tabari. Al-Tabari is one of our resources. So it's called Alam Tara. The Tabari says it's Alam Tara, it's not Al-Fil. So you guys are misquoting Quran. Wow, we discovered something, this guy. Al-Fatiha is called Al-Fatiha, it's called Fatihat al-Kitab, it's called anything. You can see Al-Mu'awwidat, we call them Mu'awwidat. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas, are called Mu'awwidat. So he quotes this as, the Quran is not the Quran. Just because of this? Okay, that's all you did? So all he did was he Googled, searched, found a couple of names, bang, this is not the Quran. Okay. Then an article about Daniel Pipes basically also quotes, there are no moderates dealing with fundamentalists in Islam. So he basically also focuses on people who are against democracy and Muslims who are against democracy. So most Muslims who read the article give other opinions. All in all, Daniel Pipes' website is still going on. There's a lot of people who want to just hot air. I'll call it hot air. They just want to air their feeling. They detest, they dislike to Muslims. So they focus on whatever those people say and they support it. That's all it is. It's like picking up likes. However, Daniel was watched. He does actually watch his words very carefully. Daniel Pipes is also, of course, he's a journalist. He's a blogger. He doesn't want to go into political strife or put himself in danger or anything. He is basically advocating for freedom of speech, and for his freedom of speech is totally different from our freedom of speech. Allah al-Musta'an. After this, we'll talk about Tom Holland. Tom Holland needs a whole episode on his own. والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد سيد البشر وآله وصحبه وسلم ومن والاه ومن لم يواله. You can go somewhere else, man. There's a lot of stuff on the internet.